Yeah, now this is, of course, completely different to the book version and so forth. So I was, yeah. You know, whenever they change things drastically, I'm sort of like, My name's Diana Gabaldon. I'm here today to talk to you, or rather show for you, my reaction to some of the iconic moments from the Starz television show Outlander, which is based on my books, naturally. I should also mention to those of you who are ticklish about such things that there will be spoilers. You can't very well talk about a television show that's been on for years and expect there not to be spoilers. So you have been warned. This bit was actually in the very first things that I saw. I was actually in the backstage area of a small theater in New York where we were doing a fan thing. This was well before the season had actually got started to any degree. Anyway, Ron was doing the show with me, and so we were lurking backstage, waiting, and it was a long wait. He had a laptop under his arm, and he said, I have the first dailies. Would you like to see them? I said, are you kidding? Yes, of course I want to see them. So anyway, he opened it up and began showing them to me. She's lying there, looking saint-like on her shawl, and you see this hand dash in from the side and put a hot water bottle on her chest. She's catching it, and they fold the shawl back around her so that she can warm up before the next shot.
And I woke to see the world spinning outside the car windows, and the sickening sensation of falling at high speed. That is as close as I can come to describing what I experienced.
I thought that was just fabulous. They've taken that description straight from the book, but the way that they filmed it all in slow motion with everything coming apart around her. And at one point, you may or may not have noticed, there's what appears to be an inverted piano keyboard floating by overhead. So we're getting the little creepy suggested sound effects as well. Since, you can't really get across to someone what a screaming stone sounds like, so you do your best.
I'll never forget when I came out of the church and saw you for the first time. It was as if I stepped outside on a cloudy day.
Okay, I have to stop there. This particular bit drives book readers crazy because in the book, we're in Claire's point of view. She's telling the entire first book from her first-person point of view. And so then they turned it around here. And Ron made it very romantic and said, well, that's something that he said to his wife, soon after they met, that she came in and it was as though the sun had come out. And I said, yeah, I bet you did. Yeah. Oh, look at the fantastic tailoring in that. Terry Dressbach, the dress designer, wanted it to be seen in great detail. Because it took them months to get this done, as well as, fitted and worn. The fabric, which you've seen has that lovely, soft, glittery silver sheen to it, is done by having fabric that's saturated with mica crystals, which is stone. So the thing literally weighs about 60 pounds, the whole dress. Okay, imagine picking up something that weighs 60 pounds and, trying to truck about your daily business while holding it, let alone wearing it. It was also, you can see the back view there, has constructed so that she couldn't sit down in it. So they had a couple of sawhorses that she could sort of back up to and prop her behind on for a little bit of a rest.
James, Alexander, Malcolm, Mackenzie, Fraser.
I love this little section back and forth between them for many reasons, including the interaction, but especially the way that he delivers that particular line. He's been having to live under an alias for a long time, and this is the first time that he's spoken his whole formal name out loud in several years. And so he's giving this to her as sort of a gift. The whole wedding, was just absolutely wonderful. Not only the ceremony itself, but all of the parts that led up to it, the finding of the ring, the, introducing of the priest, and, all of the bits and pieces.
I'm pregnant. Are you happy?
I never thought I'd be able to see such a thing again, but yes. 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 I'm very happy indeed, Sasana.
Well, that was lovely. Yeah, now this is, of course, completely different to the book version and so forth, so I was Yeah. You know, whenever they change things drastically, I'm sort of going, We had quite an argument, Ron and I, about things that had happened prior to this, during Jamie's recovery and so forth. Anyway, Ron was, well, it's all going to be great, you know, because we've got this genuine 18th century sailing ship. This is one of his passions. He loves tall ships and so forth. And he said, and so we're going to have it, you know, with a helicopter showing it going away, and it's sailing off to France and a new adventure and so forth. And I'm like, yeah, good. All right. But anyway, it did work very well the way he had it. And yeah, I was happy with it.
Oh, name him Brian. After your father.
Anyway, that was a beautifully orchestrated, very, very moving farewell. These people have always sort of spoken to each other with their bodies in both book and show, and they've done a wonderful job at the show showing that particular thing. So that's what they're doing here, you know. He can't move her with words, so not quite dance, you know, but we're going to edge close to this, and then, you know, goodbye. It was, you know, a fantastically orchestrated fight. I love watching the battle scenes, both in the dailies and when they finally put the whole thing together. It's just, you know, spectacular. Ron was telling me and everybody else that at the climactic moment when Jamie and Randall see each other, suddenly the sun actually came out from behind the clouds and just sort of lit them up like, you know, Armageddon, you know, totally inadvertent but fortuitous. And luckily these things happen. If you're out there long enough, something good is going to happen. And then we go immediately to, you know, the carnage and visiting the battlefield, which is, you know, dreadful and, you know, moving. Now that bit where Jamie wakes up and Jack Randall's corpse is lying on top of him, and he moves and the body falls away. Ron actually wanted there to be some clue that Jack Randall might still be alive, you know, coming close on his face and have an eyelid flicker or something like that, because he loves Tobias so much that he just really couldn't let go of him. He really wanted to have him back, you know, for the next season. And he called me up, and we had quite a long conversation about why I thought that was a bad idea. And anyway, we didn't. But, you know, I don't blame him at all for wanting to. Tobias is a fantastic actor. In fact, he and Sam are the only ones who have, you know, actually talked to me at great length about their characters. And Tobias wanted to know what I could tell him about Jack Randall in general, but also about his family background. And so I ended up compiling this sort of dossier on Black Jack Randall, what makes him tick, so to speak, and what doesn't. Part of that battle scene, it does come down to almost a very slow ballet. But if you never talk to anyone who's been in battle and so forth, you come to a point, and fairly soon, where you are just exhausted. And that's where they've come to after all this. And finally, these two, you know, sworn enemies will be enemies forever. They just collapse, not in any sense of forgiveness, but just, it's all over. We can't go any farther, and that's it. I did have some discussion with Meryl and the others about the ending here, not about how it was done and so forth, but she said, you know, you've never said explicitly in your books that Jamie kills Randall. You know, did he? And I said, well, I haven't made up my mind about that, but, you know, go ahead and do what you want to do. So they did, and it worked extremely well, I thought.
It's me. Claire.
Absolutely love that scene. That it was perfect. Katrina is such a good actress, and you get, you know, just all of the emotions flickering over her face there, as opposed to Jamie, who is, well, he's doing it just as subtly, but, you know, from a dead start, you know, Poor Sam had to fall down, I think, a dozen times before they were happy with the way everything splattered. But it was good, absolutely perfect.
Yeah, a lot of people say this is their favorite scene they've rewatched.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm always fascinated at people's reactions, both to the book and to the show. And sometimes they don't separate them, and so they'll complain to me about something the show did. I'm like, it's not like that in the book. You know, you can check.
What do you want here, lassie?
You.
I'm sorry, lass. I'm a married man.
Really, the only controversy there was over that scene was what Jamie is doing when she finds him. In other words, he's urinating against a wall. In the books, she does the same thing. She's looking for him, and they say to her astonishment, oh, yes, he's just gone out back. And so she immediately goes out back and find him, peeing on a tree. And then the conversation is just as it is in the book. So what the show people were concerned about was, but he didn't wash his hands, That's quite 18th century, people in the 18th century didn't wash their hands, not very much. I said, besides, I can tell you from my expert viewpoint as a science PhD, that male urine is actually very sanitary, by contrast to the female, which is not. So I said, he is not crawling with germs or anything. It's just, your silly modern squeamishness, so there.
I did what you said, Colonel. I did no waver.
Don't be afraid, Alaki. Doesn't hurt a bit to die.
The dialogue is pretty much from the book, but it takes place in a different place. In the books, this takes place on Culloden Field. And Jamie tells Claire about it in Voyager, the third book, when he's explaining to her what happened after she left and so forth. And he tells her, that Murtaugh died there, and that's what he said. They wanted to keep Murtaugh alive. They didn't want him to die at Culloden. I could see their point, why they would like to do that. I said, the story is structured in a particular way, which does not include him. I said, but, I know what all happens. It is a very complex story. It could rather easily be restructured to include him if that's what you're sure you want to do, and it was. And I said there are two things that Murtaugh might believably and usefully be doing here in terms of storyline. He could actually be involved with the militia of the regulation, that is, with the regulators themselves who were fighting against Governor Tryon and his troops. That would suit his personality and give him a chance, to be a commander, which he has never been before. And I said the other thing is we have Jocasta to a much larger extent than we do in the books. So she's a major character already. And we had mentioned in the books, that he knew her when she was at the castle. He was madly in love with Jamie's mother. I said, but there's no reason why he should not also be interested in her baby sister now that Ellen herself is dead. He would still be interested and care for Jocasta, and, something might develop between them. And, God bless them, they took both those suggestions and did beautiful things with them.
How many?
I don't know.
Kill them all.
Strong stuff. And absolutely fantastic, just the subtlety of the various looks of horror on all the men's faces. And, Jamie's last line, kill them all. I've never had anybody have a problem with that, oddly enough. Years ago, when that book came out first, I was in Germany and having dinner with my German publisher, a number of other people. And she said, you did this thing where you got me to buy in wholeheartedly to something that in cold blood I would never have countenanced, when he says, kill them all. I was going, yes, kill them all. Whereas, normally, bloodshed, well, we don't do that, do we? No, I thought that was just fantastic. I was very pleased with absolutely the whole season. My new book, the 9th in the Outlander series, called Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone, is now out and available. And you can acquire any one of these by clicking on the link at the bottom of the descriptions there.